Righty. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Um, we are PTZ Optics, and we recently started working with Data Visual, and we are really excited about the partnership. We have not, seen the full potential of our growth in Canada, and we've been a huge player in the U.S. market and a lot of international markets. So we hope through working together with you all that we can kind of begin to realize the success that we've seen in the U.S. in Canada. And yeah, I can walk us through, the current state of our product line and company and kind of vision of where we're looking to go as a brand. And we'll see how we can best work together. So we'll get started. Our flagship product is our Move 4K. These will be 12, 20, and 30x optical zoom models, and will come in gray and white. The 30x, as we move to a 4K, is a bit larger of a form factor, as to have a larger image sensor size, and the chipset on board just needed to be a little bit bigger, so something to keep in mind. So we used to have a lot of models, and they all had different output methods and different features, and we have since kind of simplified the brand overall to help with our sales, with your sales, with dealing with customers. And now, there's just a 4K camera, and it has every output method in that camera. So it makes it very easy when you are deciding what you need. These are the three SKUs, pretty much regardless of circumstance, unless you're using Lake Dante. This will be the camera you decide, and then you just choose color and optical zoom. So these will have HDMI, NDI, HX2 and HX3, USB and SDI. SDI will be the only output that will not have 4K. If you were utilizing a system where they did want 4K over SDI, you could convert the HDMI to SDI. They also have SRT and, RTSP, RTMP as well. NDI HX3, like we recently were certified with our cameras for this. This will be a latency threshold of about 80 to 100 milliseconds of latency over NDI. So NDI has come a long way. And I know a lot of the resellers that Data Visual works with are more in that conferencing Pro AV space, and have not traditionally done a lot of IP systems, but we're starting to see that come into that Pro AV space a lot more now. And so, NDI has come a long way. So, don't be afraid of it. It is a powerful way to really simplify these systems. And if if you ever want more information about working with these NDI systems, I am happy to provide that. And also, I don't know if we want to do kind of a Q&A at the end or a Q&A throughout. I feel like with a lot of information, it's good to do a Q&A throughout the presentation. So I have Matthew Richards from our company on the call as well. And so if you want to, if you want to chime in, but if you just want to pop a question into a chat, he will be there to answer as well. So happy to kind of answer questions throughout.
Thank you, Justin.
Hey, Justin.
Yes.
Hey, real quick, this is Matt with PTZ Optics. I was just gonna say that the chat is currently disabled. So I'm not sure if there's, I'm not sure if there's an admin that can open that up, but right now it is currently closed.
Oh, okay.
We're working on getting that open. It shouldn't be much longer.
Okay, no worries. Well, if you guys just want to unmute and chime in to ask a question, happy to stop for a second to help you out, okay? So we mentioned the Move 4K. We did take our prior models that you kind of saw in that one image, revamped it a little bit, added auto tracking onto it, and so we have a 1080p model as well. And you can see the pricing at the bottom there. I believe that pricing at the bottom is actually a little bit off. It should be in increments of 100 from $999 up. But this is kind of a big one that we wanted to get into this Pro AV space. I feel like there's been kind of a convergence of broadcast and Pro AV now, with the price of these cameras coming down. Instead of having to just stick with some of the classic cameras at like Logitech that we've seen in that industry, now that price point of around $1,000 kind of makes sense to bring some of these more broadcast quality cameras into that conferencing space. So we've seen a lot of our conference room integrators start to install these PTZ cameras into those spaces. And as you'll kind of see in this diagram, there's a lot of information here. You don't have to read through it all, but essentially, as a brand, we want our cameras to work with every type of system. So if you're simply doing a USB system or you're doing a complicated, network system, you're working with a Crestron, whatever system you are working with, we have generally tried to work with all those companies to make sure there is compatibility. So if you want to bring in a higher quality camera into some of these conference room solutions, this Move SE you see here is probably a good option. Most people are only doing 1080p. A lot of them are only doing 720. And so at $1,000 price point to get like a 5-year warranty broadcast quality camera, this is kind of a camera I envision for a lot of those workflows. So, you're going to see that our cameras have auto tracking built into them. With that Move 4K, you're also going to see auto framing built in. This is where, if you had 6 people in a conference room, the camera would frame those 6 people. If 6 more people joined, the camera would reframe to get those 12 people on board. So kind of a good solution for just kind of having a little bit of automation in properly framing up those conference spaces, depending on the size of folks that you have on board. We then have audio tracking, which I will talk about a couple slides from now. And that will kind of involve using microphones in a full system. And now one other thing with that Move SE camera is we do also now include NDI as well. So pretty much across the board, NDI will be included with all of our cameras. This might be a good place to just stop if anyone has any kind of overarching questions about our 2 main PTZ cameras.
Hey, Justin. I just wanted to make a quick note that everyone can ask questions in the Q&A section.
Oh, okay.
Not in the chat. So there are 2 options. Yeah, the chat is disabled, but there's a Q&A section as well.
Okay, I just found it. Excellent. We got a couple. Yeah, okay. So George, any plans for the Move 4K to have 12G SDI in the future? Yes. Well, yes and no. Yes, we plan to have a 12G SDI camera. I don't know if it's going to be called the Move 4K. Our next step as a brand is we want to introduce like a 1-inch or a 1-inch plus size image sensor that kind of has all the bells and whistles. We might be even moving to a servo motor. We might be moving to 12G SDI. We might be moving to wireless. We as a brand, we haven't necessarily sold into that market, that 12G SDI 1-inch image sensor market. But it's been highly requested over the last few years. And we've been in development on a product like that for some time now. So I do believe at this moment that it is in our future, potentially later this year or early next. Then we have the Q&A. Move 4K outputs is USB 2, but 1080p is USB 3. Yes, that was an intentional move in a lot of the smaller rooms where we're seeing these 1080p cameras installed. They don't necessarily need extension, so we went with USB 3. Where we're seeing the Move 4K installed are a lot larger rooms, a lot of them being, like a church, or a courtroom or something like that, where extension is needed. And currently, extension on USB 3 is dramatically more expensive and less available than on those USB 2 solutions. So our engineers made that call for the consumer, essentially, to say, hey, if you are looking to extend USB 2, it will be much cheaper on that USB 2 camera on the Move 4K. So that was an intentional move that we made, and that distinction you made is correct. All right. Perfect. All right, so I'll move on. So these are just some markets that we kind of envision and that we've seen through a lot of our sales. You guys know kind of how these things are sold, but this is kind of just a little overview of some of the markets that we've seen installed. And on the right, you'll see the introduction of another camera called the Link 4K. This will be the same exact componentry of the Move 4K, except it will have Dante instead of NDI. And this we've seen with a few resellers so far. This is a brand new camera. We've seen this so far in a lot of Pro AV jobs that are already using existing Dante systems. And I'll have another slide on this in a few, but you'll see that it'll kind of come into that same interface that you already see within Dante. All right, so this is the web interface. We redid this for our cameras. This is what you'll see when you do go to set up the camera using the IP address. There's a lot. I mean, you could pretty much do everything you need to do with these cameras within here, setting up the camera, using auto tracking, network settings, streaming settings, kind of all of that good stuff. And then you'll see, and this is just live streaming, you'll see here kind of setting up the camera, you know, customizing your network settings and things like that. And then here is really cool is that you can actually set up profiles. So if you wanted to customize this web interface for your customers, so let's say you were doing a university and you wanted to put their logo and their color scheme in. So when they go in, instead of saying PTZ Optics up there, it'll now say, you know, LSU or whatever university that you are looking to work with. So customization exists in this as well. Not going to touch on this web interface too much. And then auto tracking. This has kind of become just a big thing in the industry. We've been doing it for a handful of years now. And, you know, for some of the Pro AV jobs, you know, you won't see it kind of as much, you know, that I see more as the auto framing, what I mentioned earlier, but we should probably touch on it. You know, auto tracking has come a long way, and we are on our like fourth iteration of it, as in fourth camera with auto tracking installed. And we now have the ability to select individual presenters, switch between presenters. We have added in like a mild AI that is focused on facial recognition. So the camera's not getting distracted. It is staying on a single presenter, even if there are people in the room around it. If there are screens involved, the camera does a really good job at not getting distracted when those implementations are happening. And then this kind of segues into this new firmware that we just released recently. And this is going to have a lot of new auto tracking features kind of built in. The framework for auto tracking in itself was already very good. This is kind of just adding in new feature sets. And I do want to note with auto tracking, there's no additional software needed, and there's no hardware needed, no dongle. The camera does all the processing through the chipset of the camera. So it is plug and play out of the box. So presenter lock is what I was talking about, being able to select an individual target. You will have the option of bounding boxes or being able to select a number, as in you hit auto tracking, there's 5 people on the screen, each person gets a number, you want to track number 3, and you will click the number 3 either on your computer or on the remote to select that individual person. Track now is an ability to essentially tell the camera, like, if you are in this location, just track from this location. You can also do that on the way out. So it's a way to have a clean production where you say, okay, we're moving the camera, we're on preset 1, we're looking at this person, let's start auto tracking, but have the camera literally just track from that location where it is. And on the contrary, if you are done tracking, hit stop tracking and the camera will stay in motion where it was at its last point. We have zoom modes. This is essentially, think of like shot composition. So if you wanted to have a head and shoulders, a head to toe, you know, a kind of zoomed out view. And then this top one is called dynamic zoom. It's the ability to actually control the zoom while auto tracking. So almost like a customized way to frame the shot. So we've added in that ability to have shot composition. I think, and then also we have tracking sensitivity. So this is, you know, a bigger room. You probably want it to be a little less sensitive. Just so, or in a closer shot, you want it to be less sensitive, so the camera's not bouncing around a lot. You'll now have the ability to customize the sensitivity of those pan, tilt, and zoom motions. Composition, this is like left, right, center. So in addition to doing those head and shoulder shots, you know, the head to waist shots, you can now have the person centered or off to the left or the right of the screen. We have group framing. This was the auto framing thing I talked about. This was just added in. Again, the ability to kind of track a group of people rather than a single target. Preset tour might not ever need this, but this is just the ability to have a camera go between presets if you wanted to kind of have the camera moving throughout the room on its own. Privacy mode, this might be requested. We've gotten a lot of requests from this in the US, and this is just someone saying, hey, this camera's on 24/7. How do we ensure that it is not doing anything nefarious or no one is watching it in a nefarious manner? Privacy mode will essentially send the camera to its most extreme angle against the wall so that whoever is using this camera knows that it is not up to no good. Speed sync has to do with fluid motion and just kind of adding a bit of precision to your pan, tilt, and zoom motions. 3D support, you might get this request from some, but we now offer kind of the same 3D technology that Canon is using in their cameras. So just know if you ever hear 3D that our cameras do now support it. This is a new API that was added in. You might get some more high-level end users that want to work within our camera's API. You do have the ability to do that. Now with more features, especially stuff like auto tracking and auto framing. Think Crestron and you want to send a custom command, you know, to turn auto tracking on and off. You now have the ability to do that. So this is a new thing that is kind of becoming prevalent in the industry with things like the OWL and Hudley. We wanted to create a much higher level, high performance version of that. Nothing against them, but when you're using an audio and video hardware component in one, you will not get the accuracy that we're seeing from these systems like ours. So we are partnering with brands like Yamaha, Shure, Sennheiser, Audio-Technica, Nariva, Televic to create a speaker tracking solution. This is going to be huge with conference spaces and is being requested like crazy. Infocom, it was such a hot topic. Essentially how it's going to work is that all these ceiling microphones that you see below in this chart, they're all beamforming mics. So they're all mapping the room. That's going to essentially drive our camera. So when someone is speaking in the room, the Shure microphone on the ceiling is going to recognize where that person is, create a zone for it, and then it's going to correspond to motion within our camera to track the person that is speaking. We're currently in beta for this. It's fully working. We just want to kind of iron out the user interface, which will be within our web UI. And we hope to see this live hopefully by the end of this month. It's looked great so far, and we're really excited about kind of getting this off the ground. I think this is, yeah, that was the end of the PTZ cameras. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions regarding compatibility, functionality, anything like that? All good? Okay, if anyone thinks of anything, just drop a question in there. So this is another camera that we have. This is kind of our version of the box style camera. It's called the Studio Pro. We wanted to create kind of a DSLR quality webcam in essence, that also functions as a box camera as well. But from the kind of like conferencing idea of it, the high-end webcam, you know, will have, you know, USB, HDMI, NDI. It will have a microphone built in. It will have a studio light, and will just kind of serve. It was created for Shopify as just kind of a very high-end webcam or conferencing camera, that also has some broadcast features kind of built into it. Not too much to touch on here, but just know that this is kind of our box camera we have now. The next few months looks like us releasing a 4K version. This is good to note. These are our joystick solutions. So we have the one on the left will be simply serial control. So RS-232 direct into the camera. These can be daisy chained. And then the other two have serial control, but they also have IP control. So put the joystick on your network and be able to control all the cameras on your network. These can be powered over PoE or DC power and will feature most of the main control protocols that we're seeing out in the market today. And we can even control Panasonic cameras as well. With the SuperJoy on the far right, you do have an HDMI output as well, and that'll be just to have like a reference monitor. If you wanted to have someone like solely controlling the cameras and have their own kind of reference to look at. With the Joy G4 and the SuperJoy, you can also do customized buttons. So think, you know, if you wanted to do white balance and auto tracking in a single click, you can set a custom button for that. If you wanted to do auto tracking, switch between presenters, if you wanted to send a command to a Crestron system or OBS or vMix, you can put, you know, custom HTTP, TCP, UDP commands directly into the joystick. You know, if you really wanted to, you could even turn this into a switcher by having those corresponding commands to an OBS. This is that SuperJoy I mentioned, just kind of seeing it up close. On the left, you have full image configuration. You're able to do speed control. You know, you can do, you know, you can just have autofocus, or you can have manual focus or zoom in the bottom left. You can see kind of in the middle, those custom buttons. You can access the OSD. And I think you can control up to about 200 cameras, although that'd be a little clunky, but you could essentially control as many cameras as you needed with the joystick. Won't get into this too much. There's custom buttons here, Panasonic control, super presets, which is just calling all presets at once. This is just something we added in a new firmware. This is kind of something nice to know that we have added. So we do these producer bundles. We started and we just had 3 Move 4Ks and 1 SuperJoy, and we take about $1,000 off for the end user. And then the lower price bundle will be the Move SE with our Joy G4, saving about $500. I think I do note it later in the presentation, but I'll just say it now. Pretty much any camera mount between 3 and 6 with a joystick, we will pass along a 5% discount. So we do allow mixing and matching of cameras and controllers for those that want 3 or more cameras. These are just our mounting solutions: wall mount, ceiling mount, pole mount, white or gray, or white or black coloring. The Link 4K, this is the one I mentioned. This will have the Move 4K just with Dante AVH instead of NDI. And we just recently, or we're just now running a $500 discount on these Dante cameras. This is the interface that Dante customers are used to seeing. If you look up in the top middle of that, you'll see 2 audio inputs and 1 video input. So any customers that are used to using Dante interface, this will be an easy implementation for them. You just put your cameras on the network and the same network as your microphones, and you'll be able to do, you know, a matrix of all your audio and video inputs in one place. All right, and then so we are essentially 2 brands. We are PTZ Optics and HuddleCam HD. HuddleCam HD has been more of our conferencing cameras. There's kind of a little bit of overlap in some of them, but this is our new camera from HuddleCam HD, which is the Simple Track 3. What you will see here that's different is in the bottom left where it says NDI, that is a reference lens. And so this brings in the introduction of dual lens tracking, which I'm sure you guys have seen out in the market. It allows for a lot of customization in your production. So traditionally, with regular auto tracking single lens, it's single presenter. You have a little bit of customization over the things I talked about earlier, but this is going to allow you to set the scene of your actual production. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here. So there's a lot of different use cases for it. So this is where we talk about customization with camera movement. So this is the interface where you're able to do that customization. And this also has auto framing as well. So this will be auto tracking and auto framing. That framing will work in the same manner. So when we're talking about customization, let me see actually if I have, here's a better one. So this is showing multiple boxes. So in this example, we have a tracking zone saying, hey, we want to track with this in this zone. Generally, you would want to have that being like a wide box that is showing the full, this is saying, hey, within this box, we want to track. You can also add in blocking zones to say we want to block out a certain portion and say, hey, when this screen on the far left, we don't want to see this, but we want to track within this zone. And then this blue box called the preset zone is really kind of endless in what you can do. So what we're saying is when you walk into this blue box, we want to tell the camera to send a command. And so in this example on the left, we see there's a blue box around that whiteboard. So the way you could envision it is that the teacher is talking, moving around, it's tracking her. When it moves in front of the whiteboard, we can say, hey, let's stop the camera so that when the teacher's taking notes, the camera's not moving around. And so the students can take notes with no camera motion happening. That is kind of like the basic example of it. It can also be quite robust in that you can send any command that the camera can receive. So you can send any HTTP, TCP, UDP command. So this can tell the camera to send a preset. It could tell OBS to switch cameras. It could send an overlay on the bottom to say the teacher's name. Essentially, this camera can become a driver of the other components in your room. You could even have 3 other cameras, and this camera never is even live. It's just telling the other cameras what to do. So there's just a lot of potential customization that comes with that, with these preset zones. Here we kind of see the benefits of the single lens versus the dual lens. Those preset zones, those wide angle views. And so what that means is that you can actually stream both cameras at the same time. So you can have your main lens shown and the wide angle lens shown. And so if you only had a single camera, you could in essence switch to the wide angle while you're adjusting the main lens and then switch back. So you could essentially have 2 cameras in one. And then all that customization pieces I mentioned are kind of that benefit of that dual lens. All right, so if there's no other questions there, we'll move on to kind of the main show, if you will. This has been the kind of most exciting part of what we have developed in this last year, and what a lot of people are really excited to see. It's called the Hive. The Hive is a cloud solution to video production. So we are creating a way for folks to have a full level studio management solution from anywhere in the world. So the basics of how it works is that you are taking your cameras in your local studio, you are putting them onto the network, onto the cloud, and then you can access that studio from anywhere. This is going to include, camera control and switching and all of that, all in one. If you've ever used NDI Bridge, This is a way to kind of streamline that in a way. So this will do that component for you. So you are able to send your IP feeds over the cloud and bring them into any production. You can even export those NDI feeds to an OBS or vMix if that's what you like. You're able to export it to, a Zoom or Teams as well. So I envision this in some larger productions. I envision this in, like a facility that has 20 to 100 conference rooms, and you want to add a higher level of production, and you have a really good IT guy, but he can't be in every room at once. This allows him to be in every room at once via the cloud. So the next component of it is going to be switching and recording. This is not currently live in the current iteration, but is going to be kind of the main function once we do go live. George asked another question. He said, so the back end of the video transport to the cloud is using NDI. Great question. So because there is a control portion of it involved, NDI is preferred. However, you could send any feeds to the network. So, if you could bring in essence, any, HDMI or SDI feed in, but then you'd lose out on that control component of it. So NDI kind of is preferred in that regard, to ensure that you have that control portion of it. And I think when we go live, I think it's mostly going to be NDI based, but the ultimate goal is to have any type of feed be able to be sent to the cloud, because another potential use case is not really doing production. It's simply using this as a remote viewer. So if someone had a hotel and they had 100 cameras around the hotel, and the head manager just wanted to view the feeds, you could do it in that way. And so NDI wouldn't necessarily be needed. It also opens up another potential use case, which is security. And I'm not sure if any of you guys do any kind of security-based jobs, not really within the repertoire of data visual, but I do see a potential use case, bringing 50 to 100 cameras into the cloud and simply being able to view them all across your network. Another thing you'll see in the top right, there's a little toggle that's for local mode. I don't know if I have a slide for this, but you'll see when using this that the control portion of it is pretty intuitive and wonderful to use. You'll be able to just click on someone and zoom in on them. You'll be able to create a box and zoom into that place in it. And so from our beta testing of it and getting user feedback, people are enjoying using this over using a joystick. And so we've created kind of a local mode. If you simply just wanted to be able to use the control portion of it just from home, so you don't have to put it onto the internet or anything like that. There's also a multi-viewer built into it as well. These are kind of the motions I was talking about. So here we have, I believe this is the fast frame. So you can see that box that's created around the bass player there. You can frame up that box, and then if you were to click in, it would actually zoom into that box that you've created. So kind of creating these quick shots to have a different way to control these cameras instead of how we traditionally have seen them. There will also be an auto tracking feed portion built into this UI. I would say the one benefit of this over using just the camera auto tracking is the ability to click and track. So, a traditional joystick just doesn't allow for that ability. So with using a mouse, that ability to click on a single person and track them. We don't see that asked often, but I have heard it asked. And so we did want to just make sure we had a component of that for, the specific use case. This is just talking about growth, being able to grow across a big organization and just being able to have like a large scale production be utilized within this platform. Another portion of it is the ability to have multiple users actually working within the same studio, virtual studio, if you will. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about what those kind of users look like. But we did set this up for, cases where you have multiple studios, a ton of different users at different permission levels and things like that. Yep, so multi-viewer, being able to output, having ISO recordings, audio is another portion, being able to bring in all of your audio sources over the cloud, and have them here. You can even have just like production crew audio within this. A lot of different things you can do. And then user management. This is what I was talking about, permission levels. So you'll be able to have someone control the whole studio. You could have someone just control cameras. You can even have just a viewer link. So if you wanted to have a 4-camera production and you wanted to bring people in, but you didn't want them controlling cameras, you can send someone a link and they can remotely access your cloud like it's nothing. It has been such a cool thing to see where literally just with a link, you can have someone enter your studio and control your cameras. So it opens up a lot of potential use cases. It's just kind of a view of the interface and what that'll look like. Very clean. On the right, you'll see, you can speed control, focus. You can even do all your image configuration. Like in essence, you should be able to control most of the things that you can do within the web interface of the camera. So we want to bring kind of that full level of production into this. This is kind of just our basic pricing. We don't have to talk too much about it, but there will be monthly and subscription-based pricing, and we will have that through the channel. So you will actually be able to sell these subscriptions on your own. This is just monthly pricing. So when you're actually going to these customers and trying to sell the Hive, in a lot of cases, what we are hoping from this is that this becomes a recurring revenue model. And within the AV space, there's not a lot of recurring revenue. So this is an opportunity to give you guys this recurring revenue model where, when you're selling, these pro packages that are over $1,000 per studio, you'll be able to have that as a recurring model each year. So we're really excited to kind of bring some type of recurring revenue model into this AV space. And we're giving our resellers an opportunity to be a part of that. This is just talking about standard PTZ control versus Hive control, just bringing in a lot of those cool components that I mentioned before. The CMP is just another like local control platform that we offer if you didn't want to have something on the cloud. Not going to talk too much about this, but just know that if someone is asking, does PTZ Optics make, a control platform? We do have one. And then now I just kind of want to talk like high level about PTZ Optics and why we're great and why, we have done so well in a lot of markets and why we hope to work a lot more in this Canadian market. We as a company are pretty much an engineering company with a marketing arm. We do not do a lot of sales, and we don't have to because we make top level products. We think about the consumer. We are doing constant firmware updates for our cameras to bring new feature sets so you don't have to buy new cameras. We want to provide as much value to the end user as possible so that they don't just buy one camera. They buy one camera, upgrade their system, and then think about upgrading with us when the time comes. We want to be that trustworthy brand. All of our PTZ cameras are going to have a 5-year warranty. You can do advanced replacement if the customer requests it. Those huddle cameras will be 3-year warranty, and those joysticks will be a 2-year warranty. We have been very reliable over the years with some of the lowest return rates in the industry. It's what has allowed us to have such a flexible 5-year warranty on our main cameras. We do have I did say we're not very sales focused, but we do have account managers for every territory, and we want to be there for you guys in kind of every situation. You know, you're not going to be, you guys work with a bazillion products, so you're not going to know every in and out of every product. So that is why we are here to be that helping hand. One thing you will find with our company that is just fantastic is that we answer the phone, and it seems like a basic thing, but as everyone knows, working with a lot of brands, it's tough to get people on the phone sometimes. So just know if you have a question for us or support, they are very helpful and are more than willing to talk through your system and any issues that you're having. And we don't have a lot of returns, but they do happen, and we try to make that a seamless process. We're also happy to jump onto meetings and help you guys out in the sales process. So these are some of the things that we offer for our resellers and distributors. The Certified Reseller Program is a really cool thing that we implemented about 2 years ago. So if you go into our Where to Buy page on our website, we actually have like a map. And so people can go on, and users go on there and they say, oh, here are the resellers that are within my location, and find an easy way for customers to find you that are looking for PTZ Optics cameras. Another thing, you know, if you do a certified training with us, we will add you to our Where to Buy page so that you're actually a logo on the screen. We want them to be easy to find you. And then we also get a ton of inbound leads, and we want to have a network of resellers to give those leads out. Right now, we're just kind of passing them along to Data Visual, but we like to have personal relationships with all of our resellers, and we want to give you guys leads. You know, we don't sell direct, so our reseller network is the core of our business, and so we want to pass those leads along to enable you all. Deal registration, you guys are familiar with, I'm sure. Excuse me. We pass along a 3.5 or 5% discount along, depending on the size of the deal. I'll talk about that in the next slide. But just know, register deals with us. We want to get you deals, or we want to get you discounts and get you additional margin. We do have an NFR program, not for resale. So we have some resellers that have their own a studio where they want to show off their cameras or a showroom space. We can provide a 45% off discount to our resellers to have your own demo units. And this can also be, you know, if you want to, especially with like auto tracking or something, you want to see it. So we can give you guys a discounted unit so that you can have 4 demos to actually go out when you're giving demos to customers. And then demo pool, you know, we have a loaner program where if your customer wants to have the camera for 2 weeks, a month, something like that, to actually test the camera themselves, reach out to us, reach out to Data Visual. We can facilitate an on-site demo for them. In my experience, it's the easiest way to sell. Get them a camera in their hands, see how it works. They love it, and then they buy. So we're happy to facilitate that. With sales enablement, you know, this can include us just coming on to meetings with you guys, you know, if we want to present for you. And then we have a whole studio in Pennsylvania, in the US, where we can actually demo our products and show off, you know, some of the feature sets that they have, and just kind of do a much more interactive type demo for your customers. You know, lunch and learn, joint marketing efforts, public funding. You just let us know, you know, what kind of help you need, and we are happy to be as hands-on as we need. We don't want to be a stranger in the process. We want to be involved with you to help you sell the best that you can. And then this was the bundles that I talked about. You know, any combination, as long as it involves a joystick, we will give that 5% discount on. George, I've worked with PTZ Optics for many years. Super happy to see you guys working with Data Visual now. Looking forward to finding leads, opportunities to sell. Thank you for the webinar today. George, happy to work with you. We would love to, I don't know where you're located, but ask Data Visual who your rep would be, and we'd love to, you know, work with you more closely and just enable you the best that you can. We love our resellers. It's the bread and butter of our business. And then one more thing is the volume deal registration here in the bottom. So any deal $10,000 or more, we will pass along a 3.5% discount through the channel. And then this 200,000 or more, we've actually lowered that. We just haven't made it official to the channel yet, but you guys can already take advantage of this. We've lowered this to 100,000. So at that 100,000 mark, that's when we'll do full 5% on the full deal, you know, regardless of what products are involved. So yeah, thank you for coming along for this webinar. You know, I didn't get too in the weeds with a lot of things. I figured we could go high level here, and then, you know, getting a little bit more detailed. You know, if you want to, you know, work with us directly, we would love to, you know, have a personal relationship with you all, and we can connect you with our support team or directly with our engineers. If you really want to get in the weeds of some of these more technical implementations, we are happy to help. This email here at the bottom, partners@ptzoptics.com, I would write that one down. You know, if you don't have a rep, no one's available, whatever the question may be, that email goes to our full channel team, and we are happy to help in any way, even if it's just asking about stock or future stock. Reach out. We're happy to be a resource for you. All right. And that concludes the presentation. Does anybody have any final thoughts or anything? All good?
All
Okay.
good. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this together. We you know, are loving working with Data Visual and your dealer network. And yeah, we just hope to keep doing this well. And yeah, appreciate all that you've done.
Thanks, Justin.
All right. All right. Well, there's no more questions. Oh, did we get the information about the authorized reseller information from Data Visual? So they can help like facilitate like a meeting, but yeah, we'll hop on a call, or whoever your rep is over at PTZ Optics will hop on a call, kind of go through just like a little bit of onboarding in that process, and get to know you guys a bit better, and then we can get you authorized. We'll give you like a PTZ Optics logo to put on your website, and then we'll get some information from you to put you onto our site. So reach out to Data Visual, and we will set that up.